Urban centres across Canada were hit hard by a stay-at-home order, of course, and pandemic. Now back to business, luring workers back to the office and welcoming major events like this week's Toronto International Film Festival should be a shot in the arm. But here's a look at how the City of Toronto is faring by the numbers. First, the bad news. Toronto placed 52nd out of 62 North American cities in a ranking of urban core recovery. From March to May, Toronto's downtown ran at 46% of the activity it saw pre-pandemic based on traffic. Compare that with Halifax, which boasts a rate of 72% compared to 2019. Longer lockdowns are certainly to blame, and work from home also dents that mobile traffic. Pre-pandemic, the Toronto transit system carried 1.7 million passengers on a regular weekday. That number has rebounded to about 60% of peak capacity. Festivals like the Toronto International Film Festival certainly help. Pre-pandemic estimates suggest TIFF brings almost $190 million in economic benefit to the city. Good news for area businesses. 55% of Ontario businesses say they are still making below pre-pandemic sales. Well, events like TIFF don't just bring dollars and traffic to a city, they bring energy, something Canadians' urban cores have been desperately missing. So how close to normal does this fall aim to be? John Tory is the Mayor of Toronto. Thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure, Amanda.
So it's tempting to say back to normal, right? Although nobody rang a bell and said the pandemic's over. But how does it feel to you as we've got TIFF back, real and in person? We do have offices slowly kind of filling up a little bit. Are we getting there?
Yeah, I mean, you feel better, not 100%, but better. And I think that there is a trend line that's positive, absent any bad developments on the health front. But, the hotels are filling up, especially for events like this. The office towers are very slowly filling up as people do come back to work. Some of the days, we'd like to accelerate that. The businesses downtown that were so hard hit, especially in the hospitality area, are coming back to life. So it feels better, but it's far from where we need it to be. And one of the things I'm working hardest on is to try and do things like to make sure things like TIFF are successful so that people will have that sense of normalcy and that visitors will start to come back. International visitors to Toronto is still very slow, both business and tourists, but it's coming back slowly.
Yeah, and with Caravana, similarly, it isn't just, of course, the economic benefit, local hotels and restaurants. There's the energy, right? There's that sense of we can celebrate together, we can take masks off and be close to one another. How do you quantify that as the mayor of a city watching that kind of normalcy come back?
It's very, very important because, people are going to be more inclined to buy, more inclined to go out to restaurants, more inclined to do different things, even if they live here. If they feel that sense of energy in the city, if they feel that sense, it's like you don't walk into an empty restaurant, you don't walk into or take any pleasure in going into an empty theater. You think you're in the wrong movie. And when people see the energy downtown, they tend to, gravitate towards that. And that's what we want. Across the city is for people to feel that the city's coming back to life. We still have to be careful because, as you implied, the elements of the pandemic are still with us. But I think it's just better. And the psychology, I think, is almost more important even than the couple $100 million that TIFF puts in. That's very important. The notoriety for Toronto in a positive way is very important around the globe. But what's really important is the psychology of the city. So many people were so isolated for so long, and they worked at home. And while they thought in a way that was convenient, it also, there was a sense of solitude about that got them out of the habit of socializing, and that's not good for their mindset, and it's not good for business.
And on that front, it hasn't been good for a lot of businesses downtown that those office buildings stayed empty. It's a bit of a struggle, Mayor, getting people to get back into them. How important do you see it that those buildings fill up again and that the businesses that serve them actually have customers again?
I see it as very important, but in an environment where we here in Canada have a labor shortage, like other parts of the world, it's very difficult. The leverage rests on the side of the employees. So when employers all have said almost to a person, we want people to come back, the enforcement of that, if I can use that word, or making that happen, tends to be a much more difficult situation, both because people like the flexibility of working from home and because, employers are very reluctant to kind of issue instructions or directions to have that happen because they need to keep the people they have. So it's very necessary, I think, for the health of our downtown core, which, like most downtowns, is important to the economy and to the well-being of the city. But it's also important. I think it's important for employees because they absorb the company culture. They become more a part of the whole team when they're there, as opposed to doing it over a Zoom screen. But, we're just working away at it day after day, and it's just part of the plans we have to get the city back to full strength.
It is great to have you with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
John Tory is the mayor of Toronto. Once the ultimate brick-and-mortar destination, Indigo Books and Music weathered the pandemic by upping its online sales and continuing an evolution already well underway. Heather Reisman, founder of Indigo, has just announced she will step back or up to executive chair and hand the CEO reins over to Indigo president Peter Ruiz. Heather Reisman joins us now. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, great to be with you.
I do want to kind of get a check on how close to normal you are. We get all of these reports of Ontario businesses are still 55% of them say below pre-pandemic levels. How is Indigo doing?
Okay, so we're actually above pre-pandemic levels in sales. And let me just add, I'm so glad in the introduction you decided whether it's step back or step up. In this case, it's step up. I'm still deeply involved in the business and intend to remain so. So just share that, although so glad to have Peter in the CEO role. But anyway, we are on a sales side, we're actually just a little bit better than pre-pandemic, just a bit. But the cost side of the business, for all the reasons you were just talking about in your earlier segment, there is so much pressure on supply chain, on inbound and outbound fuel costs, on, there's just so many things happening, which really does impact a lot on the cost side of the business.
So we see some of them, global shipping rates are down 60% from the start of the year. That's got to kind of trickle through in good ways. But labor has to be huge for you, Heather. Where are wages and salaries factoring into some of that cost pressure?
Right. Wages have been rising bit by bit steadily over a number of years. And so that obviously is one element, but we see that as, okay, that's just the way the business operates. It's much more that while fuel costs have gone down, and yes, they're better than they were, they're still more than were anticipated. And there are still lots of blockages in supply chains, which means that product that you think you're going to get at one time comes in 2 months later, and in some cases, you own that product. So those are the kinds of things that create disruption in the system more, I think, than, yes, labor costs are up, but, I think on that, we've always believed that businesses should be able to sustain good labor rates for the people who work for them.
And of course, you've been, and I think that's why it's good to reassure people, you're not going anywhere because you've been pretty innovative over the past years in responding to changing markets. So let's hit head on, the book market has changed. It's a challenge for sure. But are you a believer in the future of that part of your business? And I know you've diversified your business, but will we keep buying books the way we have all these years?
So as a discussion, every single time people in this industry gets together, they say that reports of the demise have been vastly overrated. People have been predicting the end of the book. Guess what? Books are actually doing fantastically, and with whole new cohorts. Reading stimulated by TikTok, if you can believe it, and the age group that is addressing, reading stimulated by TikTok is now the biggest growth area in our business. And I was somewhat sad, although I say it tongue-in-cheek, that for the longest time in our physical retail stores, my Heather's Pick table was the highest performing table. Well, I lost out last month. The TikTok table beat me, which has really got my competitive spirit up. But the bottom line is the book business is in rich and wonderful shape, and we can celebrate that.
And I guess we don't have a ton of time, but this is a week where we're welcoming TIFF back to the city. People are getting back into the office buildings. Does it feel as though the path forward is a little bit more positive in terms of out of pandemic, back to normal?
Yeah, this might be a whole other discussion, but I still believe that there's a lot of reticence that I think we need to get over. But the downtown core of the cities I'm in, whether I'm in Toronto or I'm in Montreal or Vancouver, the downtown core has still not come back. It's starting to trickle back, but it's not back yet. It's not back yet. Hopefully, it will gain some momentum, and a year from now, we'll see it. We'll see it more vibrant.
Heather, so good to have you with us. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Terrific. Bye.
Heather Reisman is founder and executive chair of Indigo. Coming up, pipeline politics could leave Europe in the dark this winter. What you need to know. But first, this. Luxury automaker Porsche will be spun out from parent company VW in a public stock offering. Control will still be held by the founding family, and public shareholders will be very much in the minority. But if owning a Porsche is out of reach, but owning the stock of the company strikes your fancy, time to get your engine started. Look for an offering in Frankfurt by early October. We're back after this.